Most of you have probably seen Tron Legacy, the movie that came out in winter of last year. That movie was a high-budget sequel to the much older original Tron, which was released in 1982.
For movie buffs, this was the movie that made Jeff Bridges famous. For the rest of us, this defined what it meant to be a nerd.
But is it good, or is it bad? Should it be required viewing for moviegoers everywhere, or remain what it is, a cult classic? Let's dive into the movie and find out.
Tron is primarily a visual movie meant to dazzle and delight its viewers. That said, the acting is less than stellar. At times it's so bad that it's almost fun to watch.
Hello, Mr. Dillinger. Thanks for coming back early.
No problem, Master C. If you've seen one consumer electronics show, you've seen them all.
Yeah, interesting. You hear what you just said? Here goes nothing.
Well, what I meant was...
Actually, what we propose to do is to change something into nothing and back again. They might just as well have said, here goes something, here comes nothing.
My friends, my fellow conscripts, we have scored. I feel so much better.
As bad as this acting may seem, some of the stupidity actually comes from the script itself, given how unexplored many of the scenarios have been. But more on that later. On the other hand, Jeff Bridges actually manages to keep a decently straight face while he rattles off his lines.
Damn it!
Most of the time.
John Lasseter once said, "Without Tron, there will be no Toy Story." By this he was referring to the unchallenged fact that Tron pioneered digital effects, that without it, we wouldn't have the computer-generated imagery we now see in films, like Avatar, Inception, or of course, Legacy.
But of course, we're talking about 1982 here. This was a time when most computers had less RAM than a Game Boy. There's no competition with any other CGI films you've seen. A lot of the high-tech shots here were even blended with 2D animation just because they didn't have the technology to handle that much awesomeness.
But yet, there's something appealing about how it looks. Just the fact that they were even able to do 3D animation when the video games they represented looked like this strikes a chord in the hearts of serious filmmakers and the programmers alike.
And it becomes even more interesting when you try to figure out how they did this. Most of the movie was shot in monochrome on a black set, hence why you can't see the color in the actresses' faces. The backgrounds were later filled in by artists, then the footage was sent to Taiwan so that the glowing lines on their suits could be drawn in. They even credited it in Chinese.
Whether or not you like these visuals, we all have to agree that this is the only time that anything like this has ever been done.
This is an illegal exit. You must return to the grid.
Those demons are coming down.
Not a lot of people know this, but Tron was originally supposed to be completely animated. Writer-director Steve Lisberger wanted to introduce the possibilities of video games to a mainstream audience at a time when computers were supposed to be reserved for ultra-nerds.
Well, it's unlikely that this movie launched as many programmers as all the President's Men inspired journalists. It took a bold step forward in setting a community of hackers up in a narrative film. But how good is that narrative?
Lisberger did a pretty good job bringing his vision to the screen. His writing, however, leaves much to be desired. For one thing, his characters are rather obviously named.
Master control program.
Chrome.
RAM.
Do you think we can merge with this memory bit?
Yes.
And like the acting, there are more than a few unintentionally funny moments.
I'd love to go up against one of those guys. Make a nice break from those accounting cream puffs you keep sending me.
Now, you're the best program that's ever been written. You're dogged and relentless, remember?
Let me at him.
That's the spirit.
Now that is a big door.
I also found the film rather hard to follow. There's not very much to fill you in on what the immediate motivations of the characters are. One minute, they're looking for a way to escape, and the next, they're drinking water out of a random pool, which, by the way, they never explain in any way understandable to humans.
What's that? That is just what I need right now.
There's also another baffling scenario in which Tron, the digital likeness of Kevin's friend Alan Brady, kisses Yori, the digital likeness of his real-life girlfriend Laura. But near the climax, before Kevin throws his face to the wind and stops the master control program, he and Yori kiss while Tron is down below fighting the MCP. Do they build up to it?
No.
Do they ever explain it? Does it have any effect on how the rest of the movie turns out? It's just another half-baked movie cliche that was inserted just to make it more appealing to mainstream audiences. It's these little random inconsistencies that make it that much harder to understand a completely new world that must both be explained and used as a setting for conflict. Christopher Nolan was also tasked with a similar problem in Inception. He had to use constant exposition to describe how shared dreaming worked and show how the characters develop. The difference is, he pulled it off, and neatly too. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Tron.
So how does Tron hold up? Is it as relevant today as it was back then, if at all? It all depends on who you ask. For the average viewer, you could live the rest of your life without seeing it. But if you're someone who's interested in either filmmaking or programming, this is the movie to watch. It's more than fascinating to see people's personalities toward computers and video games in the early 80s. The acting and screenplay are more laughable than they are award-winning, but if you're willing to fall into it, the stylish visuals will keep you entertained for all of its 96 minutes of running time. I'm Michael Packer.
And I'm Tommy Tay.
And this is Movie Review 5000.